Asterisk, good evening, everyone. Tonight, I want to invite you to see a side of my father that very few truly understand. You've seen the headlines, you've read the stories, you've watched the public moments that defined him as a businessman, as a leader, even as a president. But behind every title, behind every headline, there is a man, and for us, that man is simply Dad. When the world judged him by what they thought they knew, we were blessed to experience the man who shaped our values, pushed us to discover our strengths, and taught us that nothing is impossible if you're willing to work for it. This isn't a political story, and it isn't about power. It's about family, love, discipline, and the truth of who he is when the cameras are off and the spotlight fades. So I ask you, with an open heart, to stay with me until the very end, because tonight you will hear the truth, our truth as his children, and I promise you, once you hear it, you will never see him the same way again. Asterisk, when people think about my father, they often see the businessman, the leader, the president. They see the image that has been built up over decades in boardrooms, on television, and later on the world stage. But for me and for my brothers and sister, the very first identity he ever held in our eyes wasn't a billionaire or a politician. It was simply Dad. And that role, perhaps more than anything else, is what shaped not only who he is, but who we have become. Growing up, we saw two sides of him. There was the man the world admired, sometimes criticized, sometimes misunderstood. And then there was the man who came home to us, the one who sat across the dinner table, the one who took our calls in the middle of his busiest days, the one who reminded us with both his words and his example that family is the anchor that holds everything else together. For all his achievements, for all the noise that surrounded him, he never let us forget that to him, being a father was the most meaningful title of all. It wasn't always about big gestures. Often it was in the smallest moments that his presence was felt the most. I remember him leaving early in the morning, long before the city had awakened, and even though he had meetings stacked one after another, he would make sure to call us just to check in. Sometimes it was only for a few minutes, but that call mattered. It was his way of reminding us that no matter how busy life became, we were never far from his thoughts. That is the side of him that people don't see. The quiet, intentional commitment to being there, even when the demands on his time were relentless. And what struck me most, even as a child, was that he carried that same intensity he poured into business into fatherhood. He didn't see us as children to be sheltered from the world, but as individuals he wanted to prepare for it. He wanted us to understand that life wouldn't always be easy, and that true success comes not from what you inherit, but from what you build with your own two hands. He wanted us to be strong, to be resilient, to never allow obstacles to define us. And in that way, he gave us more than just love. He gave us tools for life. There were nights when he would sit with us, talking about challenges he had faced, not in a way that was boastful, but in a way that showed us that even the hardest battles could be fought with determination. He taught us that failure wasn't something to fear. It was a lesson, a stepping stone, an opportunity to grow. And he lived by that truth. When setbacks came, he didn't let them break him. He showed us through his own life that what truly matters is not how many times you fall, but how many times you choose to rise. At home, he was direct, sometimes even tough, but it came from a place of deep care. If we came to him with a problem, he wouldn't give us easy answers. Instead, he'd challenge us to think, to find solutions, to believe that we were capable of handling more than we realized. At the time, it wasn't always easy to understand, but as we grew older, we began to see that what he was really giving us was confidence. He was teaching us to trust ourselves, to stand tall even when others doubted us, to never shrink back from the weight of responsibility. And there was love too, strong, undeniable love. He didn't always show it in the softest ways, but it was always there. It was in the way he pushed us to achieve our best. It was in the way he celebrated our victories and encouraged us after our failures. It was in the way he made us feel like no dream was too big, no mountain too high, no challenge too intimidating to face. That love gave us courage, it gave us belief, it gave us strength. So when I think of my father, I don't just think of the man the world knows. I think of the man who raised us to value hard work, who believed in our potential long before we fully believed in ourselves, who placed family at the center even while carrying the weight of a career that never seemed to rest. And that is why, no matter how others may try to define him, I will always know the truth. To us, he is not just a figure of power or influence. To us, he is the man who came home, who cared, who guided, who loved. He is and will always be Dad. If there is one thing my father never allowed us to forget, it was that discipline, hard work, and ambition are not optional if you want to build a meaningful life. He believed deeply that talent without effort means nothing, and that opportunities only matter if you are prepared to seize them. From the time we were very young, he instilled in us the understanding that nothing worthwhile is ever handed to you. You have to earn it and you have to fight for it. I can remember being told, even as a child, that excuses don't build character. If something was hard, that was all the more reason to push forward. He never allowed us to hide behind the idea that life was unfair or that obstacles should stop us. Instead, he challenged us to rise above them, to take responsibility for the outcome of our efforts, and to keep going long after most people would have given up. And while at the time it sometimes felt demanding in hindsight, it was one of the greatest gifts he gave us, because he taught us early on that strength is built through struggle, and success comes only to those who refuse to quit. There was an energy about him that was impossible to ignore. He worked tirelessly, and he expected us to understand what that looked like not from lectures, but from example. I would watch him late at night, reviewing documents, taking calls, never once losing his focus. He showed us that work wasn't something to dread, but something to embrace with purpose. For him, every project, every deal, every challenge was an opportunity to build, to grow, to accomplish something extraordinary. And by witnessing that, we learned to carry that same drive into our own lives. But discipline, for him, wasn't just about work. It was about how you live your life. He taught us to set standards for ourselves, to respect time, to respect effort, and to take pride in every detail. Whether it was something as simple as finishing what we started or something as significant as making a major life decision, his message was always the same: give your best, because anything less is not worthy of you. That mindset shaped us in ways we carry even now. It made us more resilient, more prepared, more determined to create our own paths without waiting for permission from the world. And ambition, his ambition was something unlike anything I had ever seen. He didn't just dream, he believed. He didn't say, "What if?" He said, "Why not?" And he lived as though the impossible was just an opportunity waiting for someone bold enough to take it. That kind of mindset is contagious. When you grow up around someone who treats limitations as illusions, you begin to see life differently. You stop settling for what others tell you is possible, and you start to push yourself toward what you know is possible if you're willing to pursue it relentlessly. He never softened the truth about what ambition requires. He made it clear that sacrifice would always be part of the journey. Long hours, sleepless nights, difficult decisions, those were not things to avoid. They were things to embrace. Because behind every achievement, behind every victory, There is a story of discipline and hard work that no one else sees, and he wanted us to not only understand that truth but to live it. There were countless times when he reminded us that comfort can be the enemy of growth. If life felt too easy, it meant we weren't pushing ourselves enough. If we were satisfied with where we were, it meant we were missing out on where we could be. He encouraged us to keep raising the bar, not because perfection was the goal, but because striving towards something greater would always bring out the best in us. Even in moments when we stumbled, his response was consistent. Don't dwell, don't complain, don't give up. Learn, adjust, and keep moving forward. That was his formula, and it became ours. He showed us that every setback was an invitation to build resilience, every challenge an opportunity to grow stronger, and every disappointment a test of how much we truly wanted what we said we wanted. The lessons of discipline, hard work, and ambition were not always easy to absorb in the moment, but as we grew older, they became the foundation of everything we pursued. They shaped the way we approached education, careers, relationships, and life itself, because once those values are ingrained in you, you cannot live any other way. They become part of who you are. Looking back, I see now that my father wasn't just teaching us how to succeed. He was teaching us how to endure, how to fight for what we believe in, and how to remain steadfast when the world tries to tell you that you can't. And that lesson, perhaps more than any other, has been the guiding force of our lives. So when I think about what it meant to grow up under his guidance, I don't just think of the long hours or the high expectations. I think of the belief he planted in us, that we were capable, that we were strong, and that no matter how high the mountain, we had everything we needed to climb it. And because of him, we believed it too. Through all of his lessons about discipline and hard work, there was always something deeper that held us together as a family, love and loyalty. My father made it clear to us from the very beginning that success would mean nothing if you didn't have the people you loved standing beside you. No matter how busy his life became, no matter how many demands were placed on his time, he always found ways to remind us that family came first. And it wasn't just words, it was something we saw in the way he lived. He has always had a fierce sense of loyalty, and he expected the same from us. Loyalty wasn't about blind devotion. It was about standing by the people you love, even when times are hard, even when the world turns against you. He showed us that being there for each other isn't negotiable, it's the core of what family means. When one of us was struggling, he never stepped away. He leaned in, sometimes with tough advice, sometimes with quiet support, but always with the reminder that we were never alone. There were moments, especially during the most difficult chapters of his public life, when it felt like the entire world was judging him. The headlines, the criticisms, the constant noise, it could have been overwhelming. But inside our family, there was a unity that nothing could break. He made sure of that. He taught us that when the world outside grows loud, the bonds of family must grow stronger. And they did. We became each other's strength because that's what he modeled for us. And though many people may not associate him with softness, those who know him personally understand that his love for his children runs deep. He may not always express it with flowery words, but he expresses it with actions that carry weight and meaning. Whether it was showing up when it mattered, celebrating our achievements with genuine pride, or offering wisdom when we felt lost, he found ways to remind us that his love was constant. There was never a moment we doubted it. One of the most powerful things he taught us was that love is not passive, it is active. It is a choice you make every single day. He would say that love isn't just about saying I care. It's about showing up, protecting, guiding, and sacrificing. And he lived that lesson. He protected us fiercely, not just from the outside world, but from losing sight of who we are. He guided us, sometimes with firmness, sometimes with patience, but always with the intention of shaping us into the strongest versions of ourselves. And yes, he sacrificed his time, his comfort, and at times even his peace, to make sure we were cared for and prepared. That love built trust, and that trust built unity. We knew we could count on him, and in turn, he could count on us. That kind of loyalty doesn't happen by accident. It is cultivated. He showed us that family unity is not about perfection, but about commitment. It is about standing together through disagreements, through difficulties, through misunderstandings, and finding strength in the very act of refusing to let go of one another. As I look back, I realize that those lessons of love and loyalty extended beyond our family as well. He wanted us to value relationships, to treat people with respect, and to understand that the measure of a person is not in what they say, but in how they honor those around them. Even when dealing with challenges or conflicts, he emphasized integrity, being true to yourself and true to the people you care about. And in the end, it is that love and loyalty that have been the glue holding our family together. We were raised to understand that no matter how far we go, no matter how much we accomplish, our bond is what gives everything else meaning. My father instilled in us the belief that family is not just important, it is everything, and because of that, through every chapter of our lives, we have always known where home is. That is the truth of who he is, a man who not only taught us to work hard and dream big, but a man who grounded us in love and loyalty, making sure that no matter where life takes us, we carry the strength of our family with us. As we grew older, the lessons my father taught us didn't remain confined to childhood. They became the compass that guided us into adulthood. His influence didn't fade with time, it deepened. Every principle he instilled in us, every standard he held us to, became the framework we leaned on as we stepped out into the world to build lives of our own. His words echoed in our decisions. His example set the bar for how we approached challenges, and his vision of what was possible gave us the courage to keep moving forward. I remember moments when I faced choices that felt overwhelming, when the weight of responsibility seemed almost too much to carry. And in those moments, I would think about the way he handled the pressures in his own life, the steadiness, the conviction, the refusal to let fear dictate the outcome. He always believed that when you're guided by your values, you will find the right path, and because of that, I learned to approach decisions not with hesitation, but with clarity. His guidance didn't just prepare us for success, it prepared us for life. One of the most powerful things he passed on to us was the understanding that legacy is not about titles or wealth or recognition. Legacy is about the impact you leave on the people you love and the values you carry forward into everything you do. That is how he lived, and that is what we strive to continue. When I look at my brothers and my sister, I see the ways his influence lives on in each of us, different, unique, but always rooted in the foundation he built. And that is the true mark of a father who led not just with authority, but with purpose. He gave us confidence, but more than that, he gave us responsibility. He reminded us often that we had been given opportunities, but it was up to us to honor them by working hard, staying grounded, and contributing something meaningful to the world. He made sure we understood that success without character is empty, and that real achievement is measured not by applause, but by the difference you make in people's lives. Those were not lessons we read in books. They were lessons we lived because we saw him live them. And perhaps one of the most important truths he instilled in us is that you do not wait for the world to hand you permission to dream. You dream boldly, you act decisively, and you pursue relentlessly. That is the spirit that continues to guide us today. Every new chapter of our lives, every venture, every challenge is approached with the conviction that we are capable of building something lasting, something meaningful. That conviction comes directly from him. It would have been easy for us to rely on his name, to lean on the path he had already carved, but he never allowed that. He wanted us to stand on our own, to prove ourselves, to build our own credibility and identity. He wanted us to feel the pride that comes from knowing you created something through your own effort, not something handed down. And because of that, we were pushed to grow in ways we may never have if he hadn't demanded it. There are times when I think about how different our lives could have been if he had chosen a different path, as a father, as a leader, as a man. And yet, the truth is, I wouldn't change a single thing, because through all of it, the challenges, the expectations, the victories, the lessons, he gave us something far greater than comfort or ease. He gave us the foundation to live courageously, to pursue with ambition, to love with loyalty, and to carry forward a legacy built not on what he achieved for himself, but on what he instilled in us. That is why, when I speak about him today, I don't just speak about the father we knew growing up. I speak about the man whose influence continues to shape us every single day. A man whose lessons didn't end with childhood, but became the guiding force in our lives. And I know without question that his legacy will continue long after us, because it lives in the choices we make, the values we uphold, and the lives we are building. In the end, that is the truth about my father. He was not only a leader for the world, but a leader for us, his children. And the greatest gift he ever gave us was not wealth or fame. It was the strength to carry his legacy forward in everything we do.